Geek Vibes Live is rated G for geek.
Hey, this is Matt Lesher.
This is Phil Lamar.
Hey, this is Vladimir Taylor, a.k.a. the Penguin of Gotham, and you are listening to Geek Vibes Live.
Here we go.
Welcome, Geek Vibes Nation. I'm your host, Juwaan, and welcome to another episode of Geek Vibes Live interview. Today we will be interviewing the star of Krypton, Shaun Sipos, who plays Adam Strange. But today is a very special interview, not just because of our guest. I am joined by one of the co-hosts of SNN and Nerd, Will. What's going on, Will?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing really good. It's really good to have you on here with me, man. I know you're a huge fan of Krypton.
Yo, yes, we are. It's one of our top shows that we've been talking about this summer, and every week we just can't wait to break it down.
Absolutely, and we got so much to talk to Shaun about. He should be calling in momentarily. But me and you can kind of just talk about our thoughts, not only on Adam Strange, but on Season 2 of Krypton so far. I haven't gotten that far. I know you're definitely ahead of me, but Lobo just stole the show.
Totally.
In the few episodes that I saw him in. Kind of talk a little bit about what your thoughts were seeing Lobo for the first time on TV or anywhere. Because I don't think we've seen Lobo outside of animation in the comics.
Right. It was, I believe, his first live-action appearance, and the interplay between Lobo, Seg, and Adam was just pure classic television. It really kicked off the season very well as far as just brought a real solid energy to the first few episodes, especially when they're on Colu and Seg learning that Brainiac had infiltrated his brain, and Adam basically coming to Seg's rescue and losing his Zeta beam for a while in the water when Lobo threw it into the pond. So there were just many great elements seeing Lobo, and whenever they were in the catacombs where Brainiac could regenerate, and seeing how he was trying to work his way through into the system to get to Seg and Brainy was quite the treat.
Absolutely, and I will say Brainiac, once again, they did a really, 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 really good job on Brainiac. He looks amazing, like really good. My fear was that he would look somewhat like Kazoo in Piccolo from that horrible Dragon Ball movie. But they did a really amazing job, and then they outdid themselves with how Doomsday looked. To where I'm just like, this, like, Brainiac and Doomsday look so good, it upsets me that this is a world with no Superman. Like, that's how good they look.
Yeah.
To where I'm kind of just like, oh.
Exactly. One of the things that we just talked about in our last podcast this week was just how rich a world Krypton, the television series, is, and how, because of the elements of in the first season with Rao and Brainiac, and then of course here in the second season, fleshing out Doomsday and his whole backstory, it really has, for me at least, has given me, and Sarah, our host, also felt this way as well, a real appreciation for the world of Superman, which I think when most people, when you poll folks as far as the ranking of DC heroes, most people will say Batman, because Batman is Batman. But for me, it has definitely given me a greater appreciation for the wider world of the Superman mythos, and it really has, with this show and also Supergirl on the CW, has really fleshed this character out. And as Sarah rightly said in our show, we can take the main character out of the world, that being Kal-El, and put in his grandfather, and really deepen our understanding of that universe.
Yeah, it's doing the same thing that Gotham did. Like I'll never forget. I thought the first season of Gotham was classic. Like that first season could do no wrong. To me, the second season kind of felt the same thing. It was when they started to develop more and more and more Batman villains with no Batman, that I then said this is becoming way too much. But what I say to people because then they go, well, you're a hypocrite because isn't Krypton doing that? No, it's not. Lobo is an alien who's existed for generations. Doomsday, we heard from Man of Steel, there's been different versions of Doomsday. Like there isn't only one Doomsday that just keeps wreaking havoc throughout generations. And then as far as Brainiac, no one knows how long Brainiac has been around.
Exactly.
So, you have three villains, or Lobo isn't necessarily a villain, but you have three characters in the Superman world that you could play around with because the mythology of them is that they have been here for forever. So, it's more acceptable for you to have those three without Superman because it makes sense. It's only when Gotham was starting to give me Mr. Freeze and Firefly and Joker to where I'm like, if you bring in Batman villains and Gordon can stop them, what need will you have for Batman in like 10 years from now, 10, 15 years from now? So that's when Gotham started to become a little too much. But Krypton, to me, I think it's been perfect. It's been more, the focus, I feel like, for this season has been a more internal struggle. Seg wanting to stop Zod. Now, Zod is the outlier that you kind of go, well, that was a Superman villain, mainly because of his bloodline. That was how his bloodline traveled to Superman. But it worked here. You telling me he traveled back, whatever you want. I can live with that. That's fine. I don't even know how this Zod would look taking on like a Henry Cavill Superman. So I'm completely fine with what they're doing with Zod. I'll allow that. But if you start to give me Metallo, like, you know what I'm saying? Like characters like that is when it's like, all right, Krypton is, come on, what are you doing here? But no, I've loved what they've done with this second season. What have been your thoughts of the second season so far?
Oh, the second season, it has been just the right amount of pacing, the right amount of action, the right amount of exposition to really get into this deeper struggle and the duality. One of the themes that has been played very well by the writers this season is this issue of duality, because you had Seg and Brainiac and the struggles that they had there. You had Zod and his struggles with and challenges in conquering Kandor, and how that and how he had manipulated his mother to basically do his bidding to basically conquer the world. I mean, Zod's the ultimate politician in this series. He will use for example, Seg defeating Brainiac to his advantage at the end of the first season. And here in the second season, he used, spoiler alert for if you want to pause right now, if you haven't had a chance to catch up, he used Jax Rule, who savagely executes his mother in front of everyone in Krypton, and people seeing it on television in Kandor and Wegthor, and uses that to its advantage to basically further his ends to entrench his power on Krypton. And then last, Doomsday, and how he has been making his quest to capture Doomsday, and then he was successful in doing so. And of course, in a typical politician fashion, used that to his advantage. And then we see him trying to manipulate Doomsday by possibly doing the same reconditioning that he did with his mother. He's doing the same thing with Doomsday. And we got to see some backstory of Doomsday's creation with the House of the Elves and Zods.
So the thing that confused me the most, and no one's better to explain this to me than you are. So Seg-El has two babies essentially.
Mm-hmm.
The one that's going to turn into Zod, and then the one that's going to turn into Kal-El's father, right?
Yep.
So essentially, in this world, Superman's grandfather is the reason for Superman and for Zod.
Yep.
That's
insane. Correct. That's insane, but it's the truth. We actually, this last episode, did have the great reveal, which we had speculated early on that this could have been possibly the case with Nyssa and Seg's baby possibly being Jor-El. It was confirmed this past week's episode. To my earlier point, really shows how rich this universe is, and has really made me a deeper fan of Superman than I was before.
Yeah, I mean, I like this change. I like it. I like whenever shows take liberties that work. Doesn't seem forced, doesn't seem like super crazy. Like, to me, this is pretty dope. The idea that Seg-El is responsible for one of history's greatest superheroes and one of Krypton's maybe you could argue biggest villain in Zod. So I love this because now it's deeper. So if we ever do get in those same world as Krypton, if we ever go forward and get into Superman's story, the idea that they have a bond, they're family. They are family.
Yeah,
so
and
that to me is crazy.
Yeah, and they did that the first season, but also really set up that conflict, carrying forward the conflict between the House of the Elves and Zod. It was first touched upon in the first season when we encountered Doomsday in his locked away chamber, and then of course they carried it forward into this season, showing how the House of Elves and the House of Zod created him and basically flipped the script somewhat, in that it was the elves who were really pushing his creation, looking at it from a scientific standpoint and a practical and logical standpoint of we need Doomsday to basically end this war, whereas the Zods were a little bit more reticent in the experiments. But as my podcast partner Sarah Belmont shared with us when we were talking about this last episode, she was of the opinion that what we were seeing in this episode of the flashbacks was more of Zod's conditioning than possibly what actually happened.
That's very interesting. That is very, very, very interesting. Like I said, this show, it's such a thrill ride. You don't know what to expect because they've changed things. And it's good changes. Like I said before, it's really, really, really good changes. And it's so funny because it's like DC is so good at these shows. Movies you could maybe have a whole nother discussion about, but they're really good about their shows. They're really good about their shows.
Definitely.
This being a hit, Titans being a hit, Doom Patrol, Swamp Thing, all the CW shows, and now, and then Krypton, that's on Syfy. Like, when I heard it was going to be on Syfy, I'm like, I never watched Syfy. Like, I've never in my life had a need to watch it. Outside of, I think, when wrestling was on there, I've never watched Syfy. So I'm like, I don't know what to expect. I was really glad that I gave season 1 a chance. But I have seen the first 4 episodes, and I love it the same way I love season 1. And what I thought was the funniest was when Lobo was destroying himself to get into where Adam and Seg were. So like his arm flew off, and then it flew past like that energy shield. And then like he blew his head off, and I'm like, what is he doing? Like, that's so crazy. Then you come back, and like just the top half of his body is there, and it's like, this character is so freaking cool. Like, this guy needs his own show.
Exactly, and I know right before this current season premiered, there was discussion that Lobo was going to get a spinoff, and at first I was a little leery, but after seeing him portrayed, then I'm like, I'm on board. I
Yeah, I actually want the spinoff mainly because I want to see the motorcycle. I want to see the motorcycle. That was the one thing that I was kind of just like, why have I not seen it yet? Like, as I was watching the first few episodes of the season, of this current season, I'm like, where is the motorcycle? But to me, if they're telling me that they're holding off till his own show, I can 100% live with that. Like, that's not a big deal whatsoever. I'm excited for it. But yeah, his character definitely deserves it. It's unfortunate because, like I said before, at some point they're gonna stop Brainiac. They're gonna stop Doomsday. We know this.
Yeah.
Like, the good guys always win, right? What sucks is, like, this show is so far from the birth of Superman that, like, we can't even get a continuation to where we could see, like, those characters return and face Superman. Because it's not the world that they're looking to, it's not the story, that they're looking to tell of Superman. It's the mythos, the history, the legacy, that is built, that makes that Superman, story mean more. And that's why I love the show. I was telling you before, that's why I love this show, and that's why I love what Gotham originally was trying to do. It was setting you up so you understood why the world of that character was the way that it was. So it showed you the corrupt world, the dark world that Batman lived in. So it made more sense that two titans like the Waynes could be murdered in Crime Alley, because we know how deeply criminated Gotham was.
Right.
You look at Krypton. No, go ahead.
Yeah, and just picking up your point on that, and looking at Krypton, one of the things that I did like about this series is it broke some of the rules. It was in that you thought that things were going to go a certain way, and then, for example, at the end of season 1, you basically had Zod winning, Seg getting tossed into the Phantom Zone, and as Adam Strange makes his way back to Earth, he when he's in the middle of Detroit or whatever city he was in, we see the statue of Zod, and of course we had the Back to the Future effect of the cape that Adam had from Superman, sort of being hanging there, and of course it was disintegrating as further and further things kept interrupting Jor-El's eventual and Kal-El's eventual destiny. And then, of course, things get turned, and then, of course, the cape comes back, but instead of the crest of the L's, it has the crest of the Zods. And it just opened up just a wide range of different timelines and sequences of things that could happen, so that instead of being a predictable, we'll go from A to B to C, everything got jumbled up.
Yeah, and to me, that is what makes the show special. Like I said, I don't like the shows to where I'm kind of like, it's too accurate, in the sense of I can see everything coming. Like, does it look dope seeing it actually form out on the screen? Yeah, of course. But to me, it's like, get creative with it. Do something special. Do something I have not seen before. That's why the idea of giving me a story about Superman's grandfather, who, by the way, genius of the guys over at DC. And the reason why I say that is, if you remember the comics, Superman's grandfather was not a huge focus in the comics. His father was, and he was. So it gives you so much freedom to just do whatever you want with a character we don't really know anything about. Which is why that's genius. Because this show very easily could have been about his father instead of his grandfather. But to me, I feel like you're given more freedom because we don't know anything about this character. We've heard of him before, like through the tellings of his father, but I don't remember a comic where they focused in on his grandfather to the point of where Krypton has. So that's why it's like, I can't judge anything Krypton's doing because I'm like, it's uncharted territory. Like, no one's ever really dug this deep into this world. So by all means, you make Krypton in your image. So if you want Doomsday to be there, put Doomsday there. You want Brainiac there, you put Brainiac there. If you want to bring Zod from the future, go right on ahead. But you have to make it good, and they've done an amazing job on making it good and convincing, and feeling as if, like, it feels every week I watch it like it's from the comics and I'm just seeing it on the screen, but it's not from the comics. But that's how authentic it feels. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Shaun?
Yeah.
Hey, how are you? You're on with me, Juwaan, and my co-host, Will. So I'm going to start off by asking you, obviously, Krypton has been a huge success. Huge, huge, huge success. Congrats on that. The biggest question I wanted to start off with is shows like Krypton and Gotham, which both are building blocks for the future of the heroes we know them to be. What would you say is the importance of a show like Krypton to the mythology of Superman?
Well, it's the genesis of it, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
When you inevitably, when you look at mythology and you look at any of the heroes, the question is, where did they come from? What made them a hero? We're fascinated with why they're heroes. So inevitably, we just look to their beginnings. And this is, I don't know anyone that doesn't know who Superman is. So for me personally, and I think for everyone else, it's a big show because it shows what we've all been curious about, which is what was Krypton really like, what happened, what is the tree that Superman fell from, and I think there's also a whole lot of what ifs. What would happen if? What would happen if Krypton didn't explode? What would happen if, Zod took over? What would happen if Superman didn't exist? What would happen if Superman's grandfather was the one who got the yellow sun? All these pertinent questions I think are fascinating, and I think really are springboards for the imagination. And with Krypton in particular, with this show, I think we have kind of erased what people thought the show was going to be. At this point in time, we have a completely separate timeline. We're no longer beholden to the comics as we know them now. So we can go anywhere. And I think that's fascinating. We've taken the tree that Superman comes from and we've made it blossom, whereas in the comics, it died.
Right. Hey, Shaun, this is Will. Thanks again for your time. And I wanted to pick up on your point with the genesis of this, and in particular your character, Adam Strange. How do you think your character's arc fits into this Kryptonian world, especially given that it's freed from the pages of the comics with how the timeline has been altered?
That's a tough question to answer. It's a good question. Well, from a story standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. He's a character who can go anywhere. In the comics, I haven't read every single Adam Strange comic, but to my knowledge, I don't believe in the comics he could time travel.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of him fitting in, I think he fits in incredibly well because his journey, his beginnings, before he's the hero that we know, which is the hero of Ran, he's just at the start of it. So he's trying to fill those shoes, the same that Seg is trying to fill those shoes. And I don't know how big of a hero Seg became in the comics versus how big of a hero he's becoming on the show. I personally think that Seg has qualities that exceed Superman because he's doing what he's doing without super strength. So if you stuck Seg in front of a yellow sun, I think he would be a better hero than Superman, possibly. And then, with Adam, I think that Adam Strange and Superman have gone hand in hand in the comics for a long time.
What I enjoy so much about Krypton is that me and Will were saying before is that I believe Seg in the comics was something that they very loosely touched on, like the world that he was in. They really focused on Superman's father, and then of course Superman. Those were the two biggest focuses surrounding Krypton. So what I love about this show is that they get that. So they use the freedom. And that's how you see so many cool new and different aspects of Krypton that say something like Man of Steel didn't really give you because it focused on like the last few minutes of Krypton before it was destroyed. So, this
and by
show,
the way, that last few minutes of Krypton was pretty fascinating.
Oh, 100%. But see, that's what made me interested in this show because that world looked amazing. So I was like, well, what if we could ever see more of this world? And then lo and behold, we have the show. My question to you is, with this show doing new and inventive things because they have the freedom, would it be far-fetched for us to say that there could be a possibility, like we saw Zod come in? Could there be a possibility we see them go get Superman? Or do you feel as though this show is trying to focus around not needing the idea of Superman because it's building the legacy?
I mean, we've seen Superman. So I think the more interesting thing is seeing what it's like without him. And then eventually, again, I'm not Cameron Welsh, I'm not David Goyer, so I'm not the one sitting in the rooms making the decisions. And frankly, their minds are extravagantly wonderful. But I would think that Superman would come into the show at some point, at a crescendo, right? In terms of it being this season or next season, I don't think so. But eventually, right? You're going to show the big kahuna there. But in terms of whether or not we need Superman, I think it's more interesting without it. I think what if Seg became Superman in a sense, right? What if I brought him to Earth and he got the yellow sun? What if
I love that.
Somewhere. What if there was like a bad version? What if Jor-El turned into a bad version?
Right.
We know that Brainiac just intellect later if he's raised by a 12th level intellect. What are his morals? Could he be a bad Superman type of figure? And then would Seg have to then I could put two and two together. Adam knows. So I could go, hey, Chip, the only way to take this guy down is you have to come to Earth for a bit, and we're going to get you, all yellow sunned up with radiation. So, and then you're going to have to take this guy down, your son. So those are fascinating situations to have. In terms of sticking just Superman in there, I think Superman's so familiar, and those are massive boots to fill as well. I mean, who do you get to play him?
And those are massive shoes to fill. And one of the things that getting back into you're talking about Seg and Adam and their relationship, and if Superman were to be bad and you had to pair them up. One of our favorite relationships on the SNN and Nerd podcast this year has been the relationship between, and actually even in season 1, the relationship between Adam and Seg. And with 3 episodes left in this season, I know Adam has been dispatched to Wegthor here and has a new budding relationship with Kim, which is fascinating in and of itself to see how that grows, especially this last episode. And Adam feeling kind of left out whenever he wasn't picked by Val to lead the army. But will we get to see more of Seg and Adam's interplay, which was really kicked off in a very comedic, almost buddy cop kind of dynamic in the first 2 episodes of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be seeing more of them. I think that relationship is integral to the show. I feel so blessed to be able to work with someone like Cameron. Not only because I think he's a terrific actor and I think he's just a phenomenal man, but that we have such great chemistry as well. And a lot of those moments have budded from improv and just spontaneous happenings on set and things and scenes that we would do. And and I think Cameron Welsh picked up on that, and the writers, and they wrote for it. And it's not surprising to me that it's become a fan favorite. I enjoy seeing it, and a lot of people are very vocal about it, that they enjoy it. And I think that they bring out the best in one another as well.
Speaking of that relationship, and we saw a wild card thrown into that relationship earlier this season with Lobo. And one of the things we want to know is, do you think Adam and Lobo's paths will cross again, either here on this series or a possible spinoff?
Yes, I'm going to say yes and yes.
Okay.
I'm going to answer yes to both of those. That as well. It's a really cool thing, this show. In the entertainment business, you have things called chemistry reads to make sure that people have chemistry, because it's like an elusive quality. There's no rhyme or reason, really. Some people have it together, some people don't, and they can be terrific actors and not work well together.
Right.
And it's like this wonderful supernova of events that has happened, that everyone on this show seems to have chemistry with everyone. It's mind-blowing. Like, I've thought about it and gone, people do tests for this. Like, they bring you in and they go, let's match these people up and see if they have chemistry. And none of us got matched up prior to the show. None of us had even met until we were filming. And everyone just seems to have this chemistry, which jumps off the screen, which is, I just think it's super, super fortunate and just bloody awesome, to be frank.
Right. Because I understand, as far as the filming of the show, you all are, I think the first season, were you in Ireland, or is it this season as well?
Yeah, we're in Ireland. We film up in Belfast, so
okay.
We were there the first season and the second season, and God willing, the third.
Yeah. So, what can you tell us about a third season? Are you hearing good things back from the network, or is it still up in the air? I know Cameron was at San Diego Comic-Con and did a lot of interviews there. But what do you know from Syfy? Anything as far as
we haven't yet, but I think this is sort of what networks do, is they like to leave you in wait and cause you some anxiety with this sort of thing.
Right.
We're perfectly fine. It's a lesson in patience, and that's all groovy. But from my standpoint, I would think that it's an important show. I think it's one of the best science fiction shows on television, and also I think it's a wonderful platform to jump off and create a universe.
Right.
I think that there's a fuck ton of potential with it. In terms of that, I think there's a hell of a lot of potential.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not an exec, but if I was, I would opt in favor of going, yeah, I see the big picture. And, hopefully they do.
Right. Speaking of which, I understand from Cameron's interview at San Diego Comic-Con, he said that we're expecting some big things in the finale, and I'm sure Adam is very integral to that. Of course, one of those things is, out of the outgrowth of that, will we see the jetpack?
I get this question so much,
I'm sure you do.
Yes. And I've been authorized to be able to say yes because I couldn't
Awesome.
say it before. I was my hands were tied with a confidentiality agreement. So we will see it this season. Yeah. And and that's just the beginning. I like to think of it as kind of like Iron Man, right?
Right.
The beginning of Iron Man. Like he builds a suit, but it's the beginning stages of the suit, and then you get into it. So I think that they're doing a very smart thing, which is they've taken their time and built up, the building blocks of Adam, and then by the end of the season we're gonna get into the jetpack stuff.
Awesome. I'm sure our fans and fans of the show will be jumping for joy to hear that. I know I see many fans like always putting that question out there. So thanks for confirming that.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. DC just just announced. I don't know if you saw, but they just announced a big Adam Strange comic series.
Oh, cool.
That they're doing with.
I had not seen that, but I will definitely be on the lookout for it because, as I said, this show, as I was telling Juwaan earlier, it's has given me a greater appreciation of the Superman universe. And I have to ask you, I read before, I think in one of your Syfy interviews, you had mentioned that you're a Batman fan, and has working on this show and being a part of the Superman mythos sort of has swung you over to Superman, or are you still with the Bat?
Yeah. I mean, I've always been a Superman fan as well. I just think that for me, growing up, I think because Batman was just a man, there was something that appealed to that for me. And I think also that's what I find really appealing about Adam. He's just a man. Right. He doesn't have superpowers. So, and also that's what really appeals to me about Seg. It's not that he's just a man, but that he doesn't have this super strength. So it's about the hero within. And once you grow the hero within, and then you add on these other things, right? You add on the suit, or you stick Seg in front of a yellow sun. Then you get something that's really interesting, because now you have a hero, and then you've given him these incredible weapons to wield to protect people, and then obviously you add insane villains for them to battle and fight as they grow. But yeah, in terms of Batman, yeah, man, that's such a tough one. That's such a tough one. I think also I'm a little bit tortured sometimes, and so is Batman. So I kind of vibe with that, and I guess feel understood in a way with that. Whereas Superman is kind of like, he's just such a good guy, right? Like he's just so good because he wants to be. And I think that's a wonderful lesson for everybody to learn, which is like, you can be good because you choose to be. And Batman has that too, but Batman was going to kill the guy who killed his parents.
Right.
Yep.
You're going to go seek revenge and murder that guy, which is understandable. But I don't think Superman would do that.
No, Superman
That's
definitely.
Why the big thing, Superman kills someone, right? It's almost like Superman wants to teach them a lesson, right? And be like, don't do that again. Batman's kind of like, it really hurt me. Like, I'll kill you. Like, if someone did something if someone killed Lois Lane, I'm betting Superman's going to go kill that. Or, Batman's going to, sorry, I'm moving the movie. If someone killed Lois Lane, Superman's almost going to not kill them, right? He's going to, like, lock them up for life. Whereas if someone killed Batman, the love of Batman's life, he's probably going to go kill them.
Yeah,
And
no, that's a really good point.
It's kind of a human condition, I guess.
What I love about it from the standpoint of Batman, I don't want to say love. I'm not advocating violence here, but what I love about the story of Batman is that what he always tries to explain to Clark is, look, I locked them up also, but then they come out and then they kill a bunch of people on the train, and then I lock them up, they come out, they kill a bunch of people in the bank. Like at some point, it has to be they can't be redeemed, they can't be fixed. Something has to be done that they fear the idea of doing something like that. And that's why he's like, all right, cool. I won't kill him, but I'll gladly punch all the Joker's teeth out. So maybe he thinks twice about blowing up a bank next time.
That's
Superman's like, no.
Yeah.
Like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
No, but I love that between them. But I did want to ask you, we're not going to hold you for much longer, but I did want to ask you, this to me was what I thought was going to be the more funniest things to ask you. We actually interviewed, I'm trying to remember who exactly we interviewed last year, but we did hear word that we could possibly see other characters from the DC universe hop in. Like we got a name like Hawkman, we got possibly some of the Lanterns. So I wanted to ask you, has it been discussed that this show, obviously, when it gets renewed, not if, we're putting positive energy out there, when it gets renewed,
Feel that?
Has there been talks of introducing other characters of the DC mythos, like a Hawkman or like a Green Lantern, bringing them into this world?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That is perfect. That is so perfect.
I mean, how could you not capitalize on that? I mean, that's also why this show is so good as well, and has such a springboard, because you can do that.
Exactly. Yep.
It's all there. I mean, you've got the Omega Men, you've got Green Lanterns, you've got Hawkman, Hawkwoman, you've got, I mean, the list goes on, right?
Absolutely. There's so much you could do with it. And what I love is that, like I said, with the world that you all have created with Krypton, it all is plausible. Like, none of it seems like, oh, there's no way a Green Lantern would, like, no, there's a very good chance a Green Lantern could exist, or the Corps itself could exist, or just maybe started to exist. And to me, when I first heard that you guys were going to introduce Doomsday, and then Doomsday was going to be someone that comes up again in the second season, I immediately thought, like, no one in Krypton could, like, stop Doomsday. Like, could we see, like, someone come and help out, take on Doomsday? But a part of me kind of wanted to stay in-house, to where you guys figure out a way to save the day. Maybe not necessarily with outside superhero help, but like you said, it sets itself up to where it's like you have these opportunities. There's no way if this show goes 6, 7, 8 seasons, we don't ever see some of these other DC characters come in and maybe help out.
Oh, yeah. There's no question there. No question. But, I hear what you're saying about us fighting Doomsday, and, and that does happen. But also what percolates my brain is, what if you put Lobo? Because Lobo has, like, Superman strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of, you can't really kill the guy. He just regenerates. I mean, he blew his own head off and then grew back from, like, a hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, right? Like I just picture this sort of, like, dark comedy of Lobo fighting Doomsday, thinking that he's going to do something and getting absolutely smashed and torn apart, and then sort of regenerating later on as Doomsday's gone on to destroy other things, and coming back being like, well, that didn't, extremely embarrassed. I mean, like, that didn't go as planned. And then having to try and redeem himself, and kind of the villain becoming the hero in a sense. Like, that to me would be fascinating. Right? Because he can't really die, but neither can Doomsday.
Right.
Really. So I think it would be fascinating to sort of stick those two players and just sit back with some popcorn.
Oh, totally.
Like, let's see what happens.
Let's see. Yeah, let's do it. If, I think you
make it
pitched something for the writers' room. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm making it gruesome. I mean, not like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or anything, but like,
Yeah. I think you've pitched something to the writers for season 3, or for the spinoff.
There's so many places. I mean, I think if I think with a season 3, I think audiences are riveted.
Right.
And the reception of the show this season has been nothing short of phenomenal.
Right. I know I know the show has gotten some attention from the Saturn Awards and also just critical acclaim on Rotten Tomatoes and others. So,
you know what? We didn't have that in the first season.
Right.
But also first seasons are tough. You have to introduce characters. You have to set up the plot. You have to set up the stakes. There's a lot of stuff that's going on that's slow going. I usually say like the first 3-4 episodes of a show, I kind of, in a way, write off. I go, okay, this is sort of like the first 50 pages of a book. Someone's like, this book's amazing. You just got to get through the first 50 pages. And then, but you have to read the first 50 pages, otherwise you don't know what's going on and nothing matters.
Exactly.
Same with a show. You have to get through those first 3-4 episodes and then be like, okay, I know what's going on. I know who everyone is. I understand the stakes, and now let's go. And that was kind of our first season, and you're trying to find stylistically where it fits, what the show wants to be, and everything else. And that's why I think season 2 is so great, because we're not held up by those encumbrances. We can move forward without that ball and chain and be like, that's set up, let's go. And also, the show found what style it wants to be. And I think everybody seems to dig that style.
We definitely do. And speaking of which, my last question for you is this: as we wrap up season 2 and as we go to season 3, what do you foresee happening to Adam as he continues to grow in his path and helping to ensure that Kal-El does come into existence?
Well, I think what I'd like to see and what I have faith that we will be seeing is a little bit more into Adam's story, and Seg going along with Adam, finding out, going to Ran and Thanagar and Earth and doing some traveling, right? And Adam starting to fill those shoes, like definitively stepping into being a hero. And then you'd meet Alana, and you would meet Hawkman and Hawkwoman, and all that sort of the Omega Men. Like, that's all Adam's world, right?
Right.
And Green Lantern. I mean, that's Adam Strange's world. And so I think that if we go to Adam Strange's world and bring back some of those guys to fix Krypton, that's a big adventure.
Yeah.
Zod is just gaining power, and Zod, it seems at this point Zod has control, has captured Doomsday.
Mm-hmm.
So what's he going to do? He's trying to weaponize him. So then how can we defeat Doomsday? I pitched the Lobo idea earlier, but that's also a bit of a stretch. Lobo kind of does his own thing.
Right.
So, question is how. And we've got Brainiac on the loose, who has Jor-El. And, so we have these big problems and these big villains.
Yep.
And if we go to Adam's world and see Ran, Thanagar, Earth, Omega Man, possibly Green Lantern, Hawkman, that sort of thing, then it's getting real interesting.
Well,
Real interesting. We've got real superheroes and powers, some, and Alana and, the Ranthanagar War is probably happening. There's just a lot of stuff that's going on, which makes things very action-packed and interesting and fun.
Oh, yeah, and I look forward to seeing that.
Absolutely. What I'm hoping for is that Adam gets the spinoff, because Adam, to me, has always reminded me somewhat of, like, Marvel's Star-Lord. So it's like if he could have his own Guardians of the Galaxy and his own spinoff show, that would be priceless. And I think we all want that. Like, I think that's what we all want.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you on that. I do no, but genuinely, just from even a fan standpoint, I think that's interesting, and I think that's fun, and there's so much that goes on, and the character of Adam. I mean, him and Star-Lord are compared, and in fact, Adam existed before Star-Lord, but I just think that's a really fun show. And you're just running into all the characters that you want to meet. Yeah. It's just a cool show. And, he has sort of an Indiana Jones quality to him. There's some levity in the face of this great danger that he has.
Absolutely. And seeing Adam kind of balance the future where he comes from and the past to where he is now, seeing him kind of go through that. And then just seeing more of him in present day, or in the future rather, is a story that I'm sure a lot of people who enjoy this show would love to see. That's why I first started off by asking you, like, could we ever possibly see? I mean, because it's not out of the realm of possibility for Adam to go and get Superman, or like you said, maybe bring Segel down to Earth, get him that yellow sun, bring him back. All these are possibilities, but we want to see more of the world through Adam's eyes. We're seeing this whole story through Segel. It's about Segel. It's about the legacy that he's starting and everything like that. Adam Adam's not just one of those secondary characters that you just like, yeah, no, he's just really good on the show. No. Adam is good enough that he deserves his own show for us to see his world through his eyes. And like I said, start up his own team and maybe do some time travel saving or whatever Adam decides he wants to do. I'd be along for that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Oh, I'd be along for that ride too, and hopefully we get to do that because I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, they're definitely gonna do that. If they knew Lobo deserves a spinoff, Adams is not that far behind. I believe in that wholeheartedly. But Shaun, we want to thank you so much for joining us. We had a blast talking with you.
No problem. Just let me say that it's been a real enjoyable interview. I love talking with you guys. If you want to do it again in the future, just reach out and I'll make time.
Perfect. That's awesome. We definitely will. Probably we're gonna give you some time, but after the season ends, we'll definitely once we hear that it got renewed, the season ended, we could talk about the season in a whole. We'll definitely try to reach back out and have another conversation.
Great, I would love that.
Thank you very much. We had so much fun having you on, and we can't wait to have you back. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Have a great day, guys.
You too.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you again, Will. Everyone out there, make sure you. Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you guys check out Scene and Nerd. Their podcast is up on Geek Vibes Station. Make sure you guys check it out. Will, thank you again. And we will see you guys same time, same place. Peace.